Sagittarius. Within 2 days, a blockage breaks and your life changes, but be careful who you trust. Sagittarius, there are moments in life when the mind doesn't understand, but the soul already knows. When logic can't explain why you suddenly feel like holding your breath, but something inside whispers, "Get ready." This is one of those moments. And you didn't arrive here by chance. You are standing at the edge of a breakthrough you've waited for without knowing you were waiting. In the next 48 hours, though it may seem like an ordinary stretch of time, something extraordinary is aligning. A sacred door, closed for far too long, is beginning to open. Not because of luck, but because of every moment you held on. Every time you kept believing, even when the world gave you every reason to doubt. But before the light pours in fully, there is one final test. A presence cloaked in sweetness may step into your path. Someone who seems helpful, but whose energy belongs to a lesson, not your destiny. And your soul will be asked one last time. Do you remember what you've learned? This isn't to scare you. It's to prepare you. Because Sagittarius, your breakthrough doesn't arrive through drama. It arrives through your awareness. So place your hand over your chest right now. Breathe into your intuition. If something stirs even slightly, stay with me. Because what comes next could change everything. And it begins with you remembering the power that has always lived within your own fire. Gate 1, the moment has been quietly prepared. And your soul already knows it's time. Sagittarius, there are seasons where nothing moves. No matter how much you hope, how deeply you pray, how many steps you take forward. It all feels like standing in the center of a still, unmoving desert. The silence becomes deafening. The waiting feels endless. And slowly doubt begins to whisper, maybe this is all there is. But here's the truth your soul has always known, even when your heart forgot. Nothing is still forever. The universe doesn't ignore you, prepares you. And right now, the universe is preparing to respond. In the next 2 days, yes, in a window so ordinary it might slip by unnoticed, a gate will open. Not outside of you but within you. A divine response woven into the unseen fabric of time is making its way to your life. And when it arrives, it won't look dramatic. It won't arrive with thunder or a marching band. It will arrive like a soft breeze shifting the energy in your chest. A phone call, a message, a realization, a sign. But beneath its subtlety is a monumental shift. This is not random. This is not luck. This is not a coincidence. This is the return for everything you've endured silently. Sagittarius, I don't know where you are physically when you hear this. You may be in a quiet room with bills you're unsure how to pay. You may be standing beneath a bright sky, smiling at people while your heart quietly aches. You may be building something in the shadows, your career, your healing, your courage, wondering if anyone sees your effort. But the universe has seen. Not with eyes but with resonance. It has recorded every moment you didn't break when you had every right to. Every time you chose grace over bitterness. Every second you stayed when running away would have been easier. And now the soil is ready. In Buddhist wisdom they call it the ripening of conditions. It's not about effort alone. It's about alignment. The day the seed meets the sun. The hour when the inner strength you've built silently beneath your skin becomes the very magnet that calls in the next chapter of your life. That's where you are. And in the next 48 hours, that seed will begin to bloom. But I must tell you something important. Before the arrival, there is always a test. Not a punishment. Not a trap. A checkpoint of your soul. You see, Sagittarius, you've grown wiser. You've stopped rushing. You've learned to listen for truth not in words but in frequency. You've stopped accepting what merely glows and now wait for what truly burns with authenticity. And because of that, karma will ask you one last time. Are you ready to walk through the new door? Or will you reach for the familiar pain disguised in a new face? We'll speak more about that in the next gate. But first, I want you to recognize this. You are not being given a gift just because you survived. You are being entrusted with a breakthrough because you finally returned to yourself. This moment was never about reward. It was always about alignment. That's why you were not chosen earlier. That's why things were delayed, stalled, paused. Not because you were unworthy, but because your soul was still clearing the remnants of what no longer served. The people, the habits, the stories you clung to about what you deserved and what you didn't. The lies whispered to you in moments of heartbreak that made you believe you had to prove your worth. But you've unlearned that now. You've laid it down like old armor that once protected you but now only weighs you down. You've grown tired of fighting to be chosen, because something in you finally knows you were always chosen. By the universe, by truth, by life itself. The Sagittarius soul is not made to sit quietly in cages built by doubt. You are meant to gallop forward, to breathe deeply, to speak boldly, to live fully. And that life, the one that mirrors your truth, is now ready to meet you. But here's the gentle challenge. Will you recognize it when it arrives? Because the breakthrough may not look how you imagined. It may not feel safe. It may feel unfamiliar because it is shaped for the version of you that's just now emerging. Not the one who was hurt, but the one who healed. It will ask you to walk differently, speak differently, choose differently, and above all, trust your own energy more than anything else. Because in the past, you waited for someone else to validate what your soul already knew. You asked, is this the right time? Is this the right person? Is this the right path? But now the only question left is, can I trust myself to say yes to the life that's trying to say yes to me? And if your answer is even a whisper of yes, then know this. Everything is in motion. The stars are not random. The signs are not meaningless. The tears you've cried in silence were not forgotten. They watered the soil. And now the soil has become sacred ground. So take a deep breath, Sagittarius. Let this truth sink into your bones. The delay was not denial. The quiet was not punishment. It was the deep, slow preparation for something your soul was always meant to receive. Once you were no longer willing to sacrifice yourself to get it. And now, you are ready. The universe is responding. The door is creaking open. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to chase. Just listen. Watch for the whisper, the sign, the softness that feels like a yes, not from your mind but from your soul. Because in the next 2 days, a piece of your destiny will arrive. Not because you begged, but because you believed. Not in them, not in the outcome, but in yourself. And that has changed everything. Gate 2. The blockage is not outside you. It's the forgotten memory still guiding your path. Sagittarius, have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Healing, manifesting, staying open-hearted. And yet somehow the same patterns return? The same heartbreak, just in a different body. The same disappointment, wrapped in a new beginning. The same silence after you dared to trust again. You try to stay positive. You meditate, journal, speak affirmations aloud. But deep down, something still loops. And you wonder, what am I missing? The answer, dear soul, is not that you haven't done enough. It's not that you're broken or unlucky or attracting pain. It's that a piece of your past, long buried, quietly frozen, is still steering your compass. And like a river clogged by a hidden stone, your path is flowing but not freely. There was someone, maybe years ago, maybe recently, someone you believed in deeply, someone who made you think, they would never hurt me, but they did. And not in the way that erupts like a storm, but in the slow, silent way that teaches your nervous system to flinch at love. They left a crack, small at first, so small you covered it up with distraction, with busyness, with logic. But that crack, because it was never tended to, widened over time. And every time you felt that same kind of closeness again, the pain returned, not because you wanted it, but because that buried energy was still humming underneath your healing. Sagittarius, this is not your fault. You didn't fail. You didn't attract darkness. You simply stored a memory your heart didn't yet know how to digest. That memory has shape. It has texture. It speaks in your dreams. In the ache behind your ribs when someone says, I won't leave. In the way you sometimes wait for people to disappear, even when they say they're staying. It's the reason why, deep down, you sometimes expect the worst even when things are finally going right. But here is your truth now. That blockage, subtle, invisible, sacred, is ready to dissolve. Not by force, not by analysis, but by acknowledgement. In Buddhism, we are taught that what we resist, we preserve. The old pain keeps whispering because it was never heard. And now it's asking not to dominate you, but to be released. So I want you to pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Picture the face, not of the one you hate, but the one you trusted. Not the loud wound, but the quiet one. The person who made you believe you were safe, and then walked away without explanation. The one you never got closure from. The one you still sometimes dream about, not with longing but with confusion. And now gently whisper this: I forgive myself for not seeing it. I forgive myself for staying. I forgive myself for believing. This isn't weakness. This is power. This is how you reclaim your own story. Not by blaming them, but by blessing yourself. You were not wrong to love. You were not wrong to try. You were not foolish for hoping. You were just younger, softer, untested. And now you are forged. Not hardened but refined. The blockage is not in the stars. Not in the people you've met. It is in that thread of grief that made you question if love was safe. And that thread today is ready to be cut. But here's something else the universe wants you to know. When light starts to enter, shadows return to test you. Before your breakthrough arrives, someone or something may appear. A voice from the past. A message that tempts you to re-enter what you've just begun to heal. It might look gentle. It might sound kind. But your body will know. Your intuition will whisper. That's not your path anymore. That was the detour. The echo. The lesson. And Sagittarius, you don't need to learn through suffering anymore. The days of loving people just to prove your worth are over. The chapter of chasing connection just to feel visible has closed. And in its place, a new declaration is rising. I deserve joy that doesn't require my pain. I deserve love that doesn't come wrapped in a test. So what do you do with this blockage? You don't fight it. You don't dig it out. You sit with it gently. You look at it like an old photo. You say, you helped me survive, but I don't need you to guide me anymore. And then you let it fade. The body may still remember, but the soul will move on. And in that movement, everything changes. Your choices become clearer. The weight in your chest lightens. The space you once filled with anxiety begins to open into calm. You stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. You stop bracing for abandonment. And instead, you begin to trust the stillness. You begin to trust yourself. And that is when the blessing arrives. Gate 3. When light enters, darkness tries to return, but now you see through the mask. Sagittarius, when the soul is close to receiving its breakthrough, the universe often sends one last gate. One final crossing, a quiet test not of strength but of clarity. And this test rarely arrives as conflict. It does not roar, threaten, or come with red flags. It appears helpful, gentle, familiar, says all the right things, feels like relief, but something in your bones knows better. You feel it, not in your head but in your gut. Flicker, a shiver, a faint vibration in your chest when you hear their voice, or read their message, or lock eyes across a space you didn't expect to find them in. The warmth of their words doesn't quite match the temperature of your spirit. And yet you hesitate, because part of you remembers who they were before the pain. Because you are Sagittarius, the eternal believer, the one who always leaves a door cracked open, just in case the light comes back through it. But not every light is real. Some lights are borrowed. Some are designed to reflect only what you long to see. And this time you must ask, is this light mine? You see, the most dangerous moment is not when the enemy reveals themselves. It's when confusion wears a smile. It's when an old lesson returns in a new disguise. It's when karma in its final form says, are you sure you've let this go? And you, Sagittarius, must answer, not with defense, not with anger, but with silence. The kind of silence that says, I see you, and I see me, and I choose me now. Because you've seen this soul before. Maybe not in the exact face, but in the feeling. The unease after the conversation. The shrinking of your energy after being around them. The way you second-guess your worth, not because they said anything cruel, but because their energy made you forget who you were. This is not paranoia. This is wisdom. This is your intuition, sharpened by heartbreak, refined by healing, now standing guard over the very threshold you are about to cross. And the truth is, not everyone who smiles is safe. Not everyone who offers help is here to support your rise. Some are simply drawn to your light, not to honor it but to borrow it. Because Sagittarius, your soul burns differently now. You glow. You radiate. You've become a mirror, and when people stand before you, they either see their truth or they flinch at the reflection. And so, here they come, cloaked in charm, maybe even sincerity, but beneath the words you feel it. This isn't alignment. This is attachment dressed as connection. This is longing dressed as guidance. This is karma dressed as a friend. But here's the difference. You see it now. You don't rationalize it. You don't over-explain your boundaries. You simply know. And you protect your space, not because you're cold, but because you finally learned that not every open heart needs to be an open door. So ask yourself, who leaves you drained after every conversation, even if their words are soft? Who makes you shrink, even when they say they adore you? Who touches the surface but never meets your soul? The answer isn't outside. It's in your breath. It's in the way your spirit tightens when you imagine them in your life for longer than a moment. And now that you see it, you don't need to confront them. You don't need to prove anything. You don't even need to say goodbye. You just don't walk through that door. Because Sagittarius, your path is too sacred now to be shared with anyone who can't hold your fire without trying to control it. Let this be your mantra. I no longer open my heart out of politeness. I no longer abandon myself for the sake of harmony. I no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. You've passed this test before, but you didn't recognize it then. You thought love was sacrifice. You thought trust meant offering more than was earned. You thought being chosen required shrinking. But not anymore. Now you walk with light that doesn't beg to be seen. You speak with a truth that doesn't chase validation. You stand with a dignity that doesn't tremble when others turn away. This is karmic graduation. And the presence that appears now is not your enemy. It is your final confirmation that you've healed. Because when you can say no to what once hooked your wounds, you say yes to a future that no longer asks you to bleed to feel worthy. So if you feel the chill, the whisper, the faint alarm behind the eyes, listen. Your soul is guiding you. And when you listen now, not to fear but to truth, you open the door to the miracle that was always waiting on the other side of discernment. Gate 4. You've passed the final test. Now the message you've waited for can finally arrive. Sagittarius, you've done something few ever truly accomplish. You have said no to the familiar pain. You have chosen alignment over attachment. You have chosen silence over self-betrayal. And in that simple, holy decision, you have altered your destiny. This is the moment your soul has waited for. It doesn't come with thunder. There is no trumpet to announce it. The world outside may seem unchanged. You may still wake up in the same bed. You may still carry the same responsibilities. But something has cracked open in the unseen, like the earth after long drought, suddenly soft enough to receive the rain. And now the rain is coming, not in torrents, but in gentle, soul-soaking drops of clarity, peace, and confirmation. The message you've waited for, consciously or not, is already moving toward you. It may come as a phone call, a dream, a moment of synchronicity so subtle you almost miss it. 11:11 on the clock, just as you whisper thank you. A breeze brushing your cheek as you think of the one you lost. A line from an old book falling open at the exact sentence your soul needed to read. It doesn't matter how it comes. What matters is that you recognize it. Because it was never about the outer sign, it was about your inner readiness. And now, Sagittarius, you are ready. Your energy no longer vibrates in fear. Your spirit no longer contracts when offered something real. Your heart no longer clings to what only resembled love. You've made room. You've cleared space. You've burned the old stories at the altar of truth. And now the space you once filled with longing is open to receive. This is what destiny looks like. Not loud, not chaotic, but aligned. And what's arriving is not random. It's what was always yours, just delayed until you could hold it with both hands. In the realm of spirit, timing isn't measured in days but in readiness. And now that your soul has unbound itself from old ties, old fears, old desires dressed as dreams, the universe is moving in real time. You may find yourself waking up with peace you didn't expect. You may feel less urgency. You may stop needing to fix, explain, or chase. That's how you know it's here. The divine doesn't always knock loudly. It simply becomes undeniable. And if what's arriving is love, it will feel like exhale, not tension. It won't require you to guess. You won't need to prove. It will stand beside you, not above you. And it will say, I see you. Not as a role, not as potential, but as the fire you already are. If what's arriving is purpose, it will come not with pressure, but with joy. It will call your soul into expression. It won't demand productivity. It will invite flow. And it will feel like a remembering, not a chase. If what's arriving is closure, It won't come through their apology. It will come through your sigh, your laughter, your ability to look back without flinching. It will come the moment you realize you haven't thought of them in days, that your heart beats now for something new. Sagittarius, the universe does not forget souls like yours. Souls who stayed kind, souls who learned the lessons, souls who chose light even when no one was watching. And now the divine returns what was always promised, not because you begged but because you believed. In yourself, in the quiet, in the impossible. But here is something sacred you must remember. This moment isn't the end of your healing. It's the beginning of your return. Return to wholeness. Return to truth. Return to the wild, burning, beautiful light that you are when you're no longer dimming to survive. So don't look for fireworks. Look for stillness. Don't ask for signs. Ask if you're ready to see what's already around you. Don't beg for answers. Breathe into the knowing that's already in your chest. Because what's coming? It's not coming to rescue you. It's coming to meet the version of you that finally rose. This message, this blessing, this shift, it belongs to the soul that walked through fire and didn't turn to ash. It belongs to you. So take one last deep breath. Place your hand on your heart and whisper this declaration. I am no longer waiting. I am receiving. And from this place, let everything meant for you come. Conclusion: you are the light you were always waiting for. Sagittarius, if you're still here, still breathing through the quiet spaces between these words, know this: your soul has already crossed a threshold. You're no longer the one who hopes someone else will see your worth. You're no longer waiting for closure that will never arrive, or proof that you were always enough. Because now you know. You've seen your own strength not in the victories, but in the mornings you rose after falling. In the way you kept showing up with tenderness when the world gave you every reason to harden. In the quiet moments when you chose not to run but to feel. That was never weakness. That was holy. And now the universe sees you not as someone surviving, but as someone expanding. Someone aligned. Someone ready. What comes next will not ask you to shrink. It will not feel like a puzzle or a test. It will meet you exactly where you are because you are no longer hiding. Sagittarius, you are not just healed. You are free. And you are not just free, you are luminous. If this journey spoke to your heart, leave a sacred sign in the comments below. A word, a symbol, a truth. Let it echo back to the stars. I am ready. And if you wish to keep walking beside me, subscribe to Zodiac Wisdom and let this light continue to guide you home. Because this isn't the end. This is your beginning.